Christina George and Renee Chavez, only on DTMWickedRadio.com.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome again to Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. I am your host, Christina George, and my co-host, Renee Chavez, should be here any moment. But again, we have a great show for you. Tonight we're going to be talking about quite a bit. We're going to talk about Freemasonry. We're going to talk about symbolism in the media. And, you know, on this show we have talked about this so many times, also on Paranormal Connections. But of all the things in not only television, but our movies and things that really we don't even have any idea that symbols are in there. So we're going to go ahead and touch on that tonight and with our guest. And at the top of the hour, we will be taking a short break with some commercials, but we will be having a full 2-hour show tonight. So with my guest, and he's on the show, it's going to be on the show tonight, we have Robert Sullivan. And he is, you know, an author, an attorney, I mean, a very well-rounded guy. And he's going to be talking to us. We're going to talk about The Royal Arch of Enoch, which is his new book that's just about to come out. It's the impact of Masonic ritual, philosophy, and symbolism. So we're going to be talking about both of them. So I'm more than happy to call in if you'd like to call in. Our call-in number tonight is area code 607-244-648.
Hello?
Okay, I'm not sure where our Miss Christina went to. So while we're waiting, why don't we take a quick commercial break?
Yeah, I'm still here. It looks like someone dropped off, though.
Yep, Miss Christina, are you there?
I'm still here, yes.
Okay. Never mind, no commercial break. That was just a test. Everybody go back to what you're doing.
Strange. Welcome to our world. Well, how about that? Robert, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. I'm glad we didn't lose you. But how are you tonight?
Oh, I'm very well. Thank you for having me on Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. I think this topic fits into the latter word there, and beyond. Although there is some, not much, but a little extraterrestrial life incursion in Freemasonry. Again, it's not much, but I really appreciate you having me on to discuss both The Royal Arch of Enoch, which is my current book, and my forthcoming book, which will be out very shortly, called Cinema Symbolism, A Guide to Esoteric Imagery in Popular Movies. That book will be out not most likely, it will be out in 2 weeks, and the ebooks for that, the Kindle Nooks, will most likely be live in 5 to 7 days. So Royal Arch is out. You can buy that right now. Ebooks, Kindle, Nook, paperback, and Cinema Symbolism is on its way, not too far off.
Oh, I'm having so many issues with my phone. But, yeah, you know, the thing is I've actually, I'm very, very interested, you know, not only in this topic, but just in Freemasonry in general.
Sure.
They actually, about 5 or 6 years ago, I actually, I had grown up without knowing my father or you know, too much about our family history. And I had actually gone out to, we had a homestead out in Corning, California, and I went to the cemetery there. And as I started walking through the cemetery, it was our family cemetery for the most part, and I started seeing all of the Freemason symbolism and the markings, but they were a little different, and I wasn't actually sure, you know, why, because I'd never heard anything about having any Freemasons in our family. And come to find out, we had quite a group of them, and actually very, very high-ranking Freemasons. So I've always been very, very interested in this ever since, because it is a pretty, I mean, it's out there in the public, but not a whole lot of people really know what Freemasons are, what they represent, or anything like that. So I'm really happy to have you come on the show, and as well as I also am always pointing, you know, things out like the symbolisms and different things, you know, in movies in TV. And again, a lot of people don't even catch it, don't have any clue.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, Freemasonry dates back to 1717. That's really its official birth in England on June 24th. There is some argument and some differing opinions about, like, where it actually comes from before that. Does it go back further? Some people trace it to the Knights Templar. Some people trace it all the way back to the Bible. Some do both. It's clear that a modern-day as a modern-day organization, and this is the 1717 version of it, you're clearly seeing, remnants of the ancient mysteries in this, of the Egyptian Osirian cycle, of things like mystical Islam, Sufism. You have elements of Rosicrucianism in this, Gnosticism, things like that. It becomes very popular. And it becomes very popular in the colonies, what ultimately becomes the United States of America. And in the book, I really argue that the United States is really a Freemasonic republic. Lots of the founding fathers, this is somewhat well known, were Freemasons. They incorporated a lot of Masonic principles, symbolism into the founding of the country. In the early days, not only in the Constitution, but in operative Masonic, in civil engineering projects, which is really the basis of Masonry is civil engineering, is actual construction. So you get into things like the Federal District, Washington D.C., the Erie Canal, things like that. And it was, at least, back in the day, very influential. Now in this country, some of its power was undercut after this thing in the 1820s called the William Morgan Affair. But Masonry survives it, and as of today in 2014, it definitely seems to be undergoing a mystical revival, as it were.
Very, very interesting. Now, and you yourself are a Freemason, correct?
Right. Yes, I am a third degree Master Mason. My lodge is here in Baltimore, Maryland. It's Amicable St. John's Lodge number 25, and I became a 32nd degree of the Scottish Rite, Valley of Baltimore, Orient of Maryland in 1999.
Wow. Yeah, now, again, from what I understand, it is a, kind of a very secretive group. There's not, they don't really allow any kind of, like, cameras or the outside world to really come in to their world, right?
Well, right. The lodge meetings are closed. You have to be a member to get in. They don't allow cameras or anything like that. I would say it's one of those type of things. It's a secret society. But people know of it. It doesn't hide. You can find their buildings in public. You can find Facebook pages and things like that, and Twitter feeds from Masonic lodges. That's certainly out there. But when it comes to the rituals and things like that, it is kept secret. In the world we live in, the truth be told, a lot of this is probably now online anyway. But it is a secret society. It's only men. And basically, when you become when you become a third degree Mason, this is what's called the Blue Lodge. Once you become the third degree, then other Masonic organizations will open up to you. Things like the York Rite, the Scottish Rite, the Shriners, things like that. But by and large, you're correct. It's one of those things. It is a secret society. It does kind of hide out in the open. But cameras, things like that. Now they do have events where visitors can come in and it is open to the public. But you're not going to see any rituals or anything like that. But by and large, the meetings are in secret for members only. And but like I said, Masonic lodges are clearly marked, and there's Twitter feeds and Facebook pages, things like that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because growing up, again, I didn't grow up with my dad. His mother and father, I was very close to, and actually still didn't know any of this stuff about the Freemasons in our family. And I was even put into the Job's Daughters, which is, obviously Masonic group for girls up into a certain age. And, I didn't even know how in the world I even got accepted into them other than Job was my last name. And I thought, oh, that's kind of weird. They got a group for us, and so I really didn't know a whole lot about it. I was very young at the time, so it was kind of interesting. But it is something, like you said, that it is very in the public eye, but yet very, very still secretive, and a lot of people really don't know. I've asked many people even what they think the Freemasons are, and, I have got answers like you probably wouldn't be surprised at all the different answers that I get. Everything from they're the Illuminati, to, oh, it's nothing. It's, people put way too much in it. It's just a bunch of builders. And, but, obviously it's good to have somebody like you to come on to the show and talk about some of these things and, all the stuff that, people do have questions about. I just got a message. So, Renee, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line.
Oh, okay,
yes,
great. All right, just wanted to make sure I didn't want to forget about you since you weren't on at the beginning. Well, what are your thoughts, Renee? I mean, obviously, you've done a lot of research too, and we obviously talked about this a lot, about the symbolisms and all the different things and people's perceptions of what the Freemasons are and what it, represents and things like that. I mean, what are your feelings on it?
Yeah. I mean, because I hear so many different things about the Freemasons and the whole mysticism behind it. And, and he's right about that. Some people will go far back, Egyptians and then various other connections, with their different mysticism, and it's kind of integrated all together, and which basically comes out to later on into the modern Freemasons. And so I always was fascinated and curious about it, and wondered about the symbolism that they're used, and because we see the Freemason buildings everywhere, and the different symbols of it, everywhere we go. And so it just I have a big curiosity about it. So we got the right guy to tell us and inform us, and more about it and what goes on inside. And there's so many people who are part of these lodges, and so I'm just really curious.
That's actually a very, very large organization. Robert, how big is the Freemason organization, or do you have an idea, an average?
What was the question? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
How many members do you think are in the Freemasons?
My understanding that right now, globally, it's about 6.5 million. That's my understanding of it.
Wow, that's huge.
That's globally, though. That's globally.
Right. Oh, yeah. But, I mean, still, that's a very, very, large list. And so the one question I was getting a lot on Facebook from people was, and I'll ask you the question, is the Freemason organization, are they the Illuminati? Are they trying to take over the world?
No, not really. The Illuminati was a historical Masonic movement. And in the early days of the country, there is definitely an Illuminati influence going on. It's founded, the historical Illuminati, it dates from May the 1st, 1776, and it's founded by this German Freemason, Prussian Freemason named Adam Weishaupt. And all the guys in the Illuminati take the names of these, the Greco-Roman, legends. Weishaupt was Spartacus. Carnegie was Philo. I forget some of the other names, but they all take these mythological, Greek names. And it's founded, and basically what Weishaupt is trying to do is it's really this new revolutionary firebrand of Freemasonry that's going to, it's very anti-monarchy, it's very anti-Vatican, it's very anti-religion. However, this does seem to be a bit of a ploy. A German aristocrat who I just mentioned named Adolf Carnegie joins the order. He's a Freemason. And when he joins the Illuminati, he's really drawn to it. Carnegie, his first name is Adolf. he is sort of what you would want to call the de facto leader of Germanic occultism at the time. He's a Freemason. When he joins the Illuminati, he gets a whole host of Masons to join with him, and he leaves the Illuminati shortly after joining. I don't know, he's there for about a year or so, and he writes a treatise as to why he's leaving, and he says this whole thing with the Illuminati, this is the Counter-Reformation, excuse me, all over again. The Illuminati is the Society of Jesus under another name. You have to remember that in 1773, 3 years before the Illuminati comes on the map, the Jesuits are put out of business by the Pope in Rome. They are the black magicians of Europe. They are the destroyers of nations. They are your black CIA order. The Pope in 1773 has had enough of these guys, tries to put the Jesuits out of order. They just go underground and reemerge as this group called the Illuminati. Carnegie exposes this. He says all these guys like Xavier Zwack, von Born, Weishaupt, these guys are all just closet Jesuits. This is, part of the Counter-Reformation. Don't buy into this. The Illuminati does have some influence. Clearly, concepts of political Illuminism filter into the United States. You can clearly see the Illuminati's fingerprints on the French Revolution. The Illuminati as a historical group really seems to fade off the history books after the French Revolution, after the wars of Napoleon. Their philosophy goes into another group in Europe called the Carbonari, and that's of Giuseppe Mazzini and Garibaldi and people like that. And it's the Carbonari means the charcoal burners, and this is the group that's thought to have been behind the Black Hand, which was Princip, who shot and killed the Archduke and started World War I. At any rate, the Illuminati seems to go off the history books at the end of the wars of Napoleon, and right then and there you have the return of the Jesuits. They're restored. You have the return of the Papal States. They're back. The Inquisition comes back. So it just seems to me that the Illuminati was, and this is what I talk about in the book, was just sort of this Counter-Reformation Jesuit trick, basically that they went underground and reemerged as this name. As far as the Illuminati, it flirts with Freemasonry. Now, when you get into the United States, you definitely have an Illuminati influence early on. What you have going on is, and it's a long backstory, but I'm going to try to summarize it as fast as possible, is in the United States you have the Blue Lodges, which is your first 3 degrees of Masonry, entered apprentice, fellow craft, master Mason. These fall under the aegis of a state Grand Lodge. There is no Grand Lodge of the United States of America. There's only state Grand Lodges, and one state Grand Lodge cannot order dictates or issue orders to another state Grand Lodge. So, for example, I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, so I'm under the Maryland Grand Lodge. If you're in Pennsylvania, it would be the Pennsylvania Grand Lodge. If you're in California, it would be the California Grand Lodge. Each jurisdiction is of its own. In the United States, as Masonry grows and you have this higher degree system coming into effect, basically you have Freemasons, and the main guy behind this is this former governor of New York named DeWitt Clinton, who is using the higher degrees of Freemasonry, which is another story, to basically interact with Masons over state lines and formulate policy, basically to craft society, to craft the new world in a positive way. He viewed this as completely positive, but what he is doing is he is definitely, if you're talking about like Illuminism, it's definitely a closed doors, across state lines, formulating policy behind the people's back. That is clearly going on, and using symbols and things like that in civil engineering. And again, there's no transparency here. This gets blown apart in the 1820s with the William Morgan affair, where the American people learn of this, and basically Freemasonry goes from being viewed as this patriotic order of Washington and Franklin to this conspiratorial order, that is operating across state lines. This does not go over well with the American public. This one man named William Morgan threatened to expose a lot of the secrets of Masonry. He is kidnapped. He's taken over the Canadian border by Masons. He's disposed of. He's never heard of again. DeWitt Clinton gets involved with this, and Masonry takes a big hit out of it. A lot of state Grand Lodges close. In Maryland, where I am, about 50 to 60% of the state Blue Lodges are wiped out. Masonry survives it, but it survives it by distancing itself from any sort of esoteric and occult aspects. and just emerges as a fraternal order that, helps widows and orphans. But you would definitely see this Illuminati incursion with DeWitt Clinton. I mean, he's the guy who's accused of being in the Illuminati. They call it in America the Colombian Illuminati. I don't know if you've heard that term before, but he's the guy who was supposed to be in charge of this. And then you've got other Masons such as Ezra Ames was allegedly involved with this. Joel Poinsett, the Livingston family. These are all the guys. Thomas Smith Webb, he's the inventor of the York Rite. Benjamin Hurd, he's a Boston lawyer. These are the guys who are sort of working behind the scenes. And like I said, this gets exposed in the 1820s. But, just really to go back, you definitely will see an Illuminati influence, on the United States in the early days. But the Illuminati as a group, definitely seems to go out of business after the wars of Napoleon. That being said, I don't want to sound like too much of an apologist, you will definitely see the Illuminati influence in the Carbonari, and clearly when you get into groups like Skull and Bones, the guy who founded Skull and Bones at Yale, William Huntington Russell, he is clearly, when he comes back from Europe, he is definitely visiting Masonic lodges that have vestiges of the Illuminati in it. The Rites of Strict Observance, which is another one of these esoteric high-degree Masonic rites. So, yeah, you will definitely see, Illuminati influence in the United States in its early days, no question about it.
Yeah, just like our dollar bills and things like that. Obviously they had a big influence, at the very beginning. So you're saying that has now changed. I mean, there's kind of what it sounds like break-off groups that are still out there and still.
Well, what I think you have going on is you will definitely see a lot of Masonic and Illuminati influence at the development of the country, in its early days. You will clearly see Masonic influence in the Constitution, in the architecture of things like the Washington, D.C., which is paralleled in Baltimore. You will see, Masonic influences, in things like the Erie Canal, and, a lot of the state's logos and things like that, and nicknames are Freemasonic. The Illuminati, when you get into the dollar bill and the Great Seal, the back of the dollar bill, and I get into the whole Great Seal. The back of the dollar bill, the pyramid and the eagle are they're the reverse and obverse of the Great Seal of the United States. Most people know the eagle. The eagle, that's the one that's most recognizable. The one that's way more esoteric is the truncated pyramid with the all-seeing eye. With right. Thus begins the new order of the ages, or here begins the new order of the ages. Basically, you have a lot of symbology going on with those two symbols, both the eagle and the pyramid. The eagle is more Freemasonic. The New Order of the Ages and the pyramid is more of a solar emblem, so it's quasi-Masonic. But yeah, you will definitely see Masonic influences there. But with the Illuminati, my understanding of it is, I know some people will tell you different. It basically doesn't exist anymore. Now, I know clearly you will have these globalist type organizations, just like Bilderberger, or Trilateral. I don't see really any Masonic connections to those, though. But, the Illuminati of Weishaupt was definitely a Freemasonic movement. It's really an extreme form of Freemasonry is really what it is. And, yeah, I'm not going to come on and apologize. It's definitely influential in the early days of the country. And, you will definitely see its influence. And it's more of a Masonic influence than it is an Illuminati. But Illuminism is part of it as well.
Right. So, let's kind of talk about your book a little bit, because I find it fascinating, because I've seen so many different things in movies that most people don't catch. And, there is a whole lot of symbolism in that. And why is it that what is it have you found that points to why we have all this symbolism in the media and in the movies?
Right. Well, in the Royal Arch of Enoch, the impact of Masonic ritual, philosophy, and symbolism, the final chapter of that book, this is the book that's out now, deals with Masonic and Enochian and solar symbolism in films. What some of the movies that I talk about in the Royal Arch of Enoch, In this is the final chapters, the National Treasure movies. The first National Treasure movie is a replication of the Royal Arch Ceremonial. The Being There movie with Peter Sellers is a replication, is a solar allegory. I did the King Arthur movie Excalibur. This was a movie that came out in the late 70s, early 80s by John Borman. And I get into the whole Arthurian legend with King Arthur being another solar allegory, where King Arthur is the sun, the Knights of the Round Table of the Zodiac. Guinevere is the Lunar Queen, which is the House of Cancer. Lancelot, his favorite knight is naturally Leo the Lion, which is ruled by the sun. I got into all sorts of, and this is quasi-Masonic because Masonry incorporates loads of solar symbolism. And then some of the other movies, the Da Vinci Code, which is a temple to the number 13. This again ties into this Royal Arch Ceremonial with the restoration of wisdom, antediluvian knowledge. So when I was writing the Royal Arch of Enoch, these were some of the movies I talked about, but then there was other movies that I wanted to talk about that didn't really fit in, that dealt with themes of Gnosticism, both, the Valentian strain and Manichaean Gnosticism, just, numerology, Kabbalistic symbolism, the Joseph Campbell monomyth. So, continuing on from that final chapter, I wrote my second book, which is titled Cinema Symbolism, A Guide to Esoteric Imagery in Popular Movies. This is a book that will be out in about 2 weeks. The ebooks will be launched in this on this in about 5 to 7 days on the Kindle and Nook, Barnes & Noble, and all that good stuff. And you will definitely see this numerological symbolism in movies, this esoteric hidden symbolism. I don't really go the path of eyes and triangles in the background or women in red dresses. I get into really a lot of the, Kabbalistic, mythology behind a lot of these stories. Movie, filming techniques that a lot of filmmakers will use to convey this. It's very powerful information. It's very powerful symbolism. You get a director who is aware of this. You can print money off of this stuff by incorporating this stuff. It ties into what Carl Gustav Jung, the psychiatrist, called the collective unconscious. That there are just so many things that are part of our history and mythology and religion that they're just ingrained in us, whether we even know it or not. And movie makers play on this and incorporate these little emblems. And like you said, you may not even know it. And believe me, I've had to go back and watch these movies, some of them 10, 15 times to catch up on, to pick up on this stuff. It is so adroitly concealed. It's sometimes even I'll be sitting there and I'll have to pause a movie and I'll be like, why is the director telling me this, or why is the director showing me this over and over again? And then you start researching and you're like, oh my God, there it is. I mean, there it is, and there's the hidden symbolism with this. And, like I said, with Royal Arch of Enoch, some of the movies I talk about in that was Excalibur, The Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp, which is Hebrew Kabbalah, the National Treasure movies. The first one is a Masonic ritual. The second one deals with loads of Masonic themes. The Da Vinci Code movie, which incorporates the number 13 all over the place. Angels and Demons has some interesting solar iconography. Being There is a solar allegory. Cinema Symbolism, this book that's about to come out. Some of the movies in this, I talk about Star Wars, all of them, episodes 1 through 6. I do the Back to the Future trilogy. That's more complex. That has to do with a lot of Egyptian mythology and numerology. The Black Swan movie with Natalie Portman deals with a lot of themes of Gnosticism and ego versus shadow self. The Exorcist movie by William Friedkin, and this is based off the book by William Peter Blatty. That has some hidden allegories and interesting concepts relating to Gnosticism, Ascensio, Apotheosis in it. The Omen trilogy, again, this relates to concepts of astrotheology and some really unusual Egyptian motifs in that as well. Under some of the Gnostic movies, Blade Runner comes to mind. The Truman Show with Jim Carrey echoes a lot of this as well. It's very detailed. There's a lot going on in these movies. It's very powerful. I don't ascribe the motive as sinister as a lot of people do. I think it's more of, movie makers are aware of this material. They know it's very powerful. I don't think it's part of some sort of satanic Hollywood agenda or anything like that. I shy away from that. I think it's, when you get into, just the movie making industry, as a whole, you get into Hollywood, you are a stone's throw away from Manly Palmer Hall's Philosophical Research Society. These guys are aware of this material. The counter argument to this is, these guys aren't aware of this, and this is all coincidence. I do not buy into that in any way, shape, or form. These people know it. Lucas has talked about it before, in some of his interviews. I know Ron Howard talked about it with the Da Vinci Code. So these guys are aware of it. They're putting it in there, and it's a game. On one hand, they know it's powerful. They know it appeals to us. They know they're tweaking our collective unconscious, and by putting this stuff in there. And it's a challenge. Figure it out. Codes are fun. Try to find out what I'm really telling you here. What is the underlying mythology of this story? Why am I using this date instead of that date? Why am I, drilling this time of day in your head instead of this time of day? And usually there is a reason for it. And it's surprising. And when you find it out, it's one of those, oh my God, aha moments. And when you understand it, you'll realize these movies are telling you a lot more than what's being presented on celluloid.
Yeah, I completely agree 100%. And, people don't understand, how powerful, the media is just in general. And we see, just in, probably the last 10 to 15 years, the types of movies that are coming out. And I'm like you. Like, I will end up watching movies over and over and over again. And, I have all these questions that pop up, just like you kind of how you were saying. And when you look back, you're like, wow. Unless you really know what to look for, most people would never, ever see it, nor would, they really know what to look for, because this is something that really hasn't been talked about.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And in the book, in the Cinema Symbolism book, what I was able to do with the Royal Arch book was, because it's the last chapter, I had built up a foundation already with the chapters basically 1 through 14, explaining all this. So when I got to the movie stuff, I could reference stuff and you would know what it is. But in Cinema Symbolism, I put I have a huge introduction where I get into a lot of this numerological stuff. You got to get into the mythology, the Masonic stuff. You present it early on to give the people, you got to give the reader some background information to know what it is, and then of course, it explains itself as the book unfolds, and you can explain some of it, of course, as you're just talking about the movies. The book, the Cinema Symbolism book, is divided up in the movies. There's a chapter on the Star Wars, there's a chapter on the Lord of the Rings, there's a chapter on the Matrix trilogies. Then I did, lump some stuff together. I got a whole chapter on horror movies. I've got a chapter on some comedies, actually, that deals with this stuff. There's a chapter on The Exorcist, The Omen. Back to the Future has its own chapter. And it's really the way you have to do it. And it's like you said, unless you have a background or working knowledge of this occultism, and this material, you won't understand it. And you not only will you not understand it, it'll go right by you. It'll just go right by you on the screen. If you don't, and you're right. You will not pick up on this on the first viewing. You will some of it. And some movies are a little more overt about it than others. But some of this stuff is so adroitly concealed and embedded. And it's just astounding when you look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was surprised to find out that there was actually, a lot of symbolism and stuff like that in children's movies, Disney movies, that I, growing up had seen, showed my children, you would think, oh, what's bad about a kid's movie, what would be in there? But there's actually a lot of stuff in those movies as well, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I am from Walt Disney. The The book that I'm about to publish, Cinema Symbolism, I am actually writing right now its sequel titled Cinema Symbolism 2, and in this one I'm taking on the Walt Disney material. Oh yeah, I mean Walt Disney stuff has all kind of stuff in it. Again, a lot of people, Walt Disney definitely puts stuff in their movies. The National Treasure movies are Walt Disney, and like I said, the first one is a Masonic ritual. Walt Disney, their animated movies from the 40s and 50s have a lot of esoteric concealed stuff in that. The one that is really, I mean, the godfather of the occult, Walt Disney movies is Fantasia. Where you have Night on Bald, you have Night on Bald Mountain, which is all but satanic. You have Mickey Mouse using the Kabbalistic magic to make the broomsticks come alive. Cinderella, I think it's Cinderella, has the cat Lucifer in it. And then a lot of people, this has fallen off, and this is a series of movies that were really ahead of their time. I grew up in the 70s. I was born in 1971, and I actually saw these movies in the theater, and of course I just saw them as a child. But there was two movies that Disney came out with in the 70s. One is called Escape from Witch Mountain, and the other is called Return to Witch Mountain. Yeah, and I mean, and these movies are way ahead of their time. I mean, these things deal with ESP, UFOs, interdimensional travel, government conspiracies. And I was watching them as a child. I mean, so, to me it was just a child, it was just entertainment to me. But if you watch these movies, and these are two movies that I'm taking on in CS2 or Cinema Symbolism 2, these movies are really ahead of their time when you're talking about government conspiracies, and ESP and paranormal research and the occult and the government involvement with all this. It just seems like they knew too much almost. Those are movies most people, when people talk about Disney, they automatically go to the animated features, which is fine. That's really probably what he's most known for. Like the other one, Snow White, which, has lots going on it. But that's, again, based on the Grimm's fairy tale. Where you have the evil queen using the mirror magic, the scrying to summon the evil demons, to talk to pretend the future. This is, again, coming straight out of the world of John Dee with the black mirrors in Elizabethan England. So, some of it you can't quite pin on Disney himself. Some of it does come from a lot of the underlying folklore that he's using. But, yeah, I mean, the Walt Disney stuff, definitely incorporates a lot of occult and esoteric iconography.
Yeah, I was shocked because, again, just like you said, I grew up in the 70s, born in 67, and God, that's definitely tell my age, but
right, no.
It's something that, like you said, you saw this stuff in, the movie theaters, everybody had seen it, and, then even the newer things, everybody who had children would go and buy all the Disney movies thinking, oh, what a great, filmmaker just makes kids movies and stuff. And, as I got to be an adult and I started seeing this, I was thinking, oh my gosh, hold on a second, and rewind them. And I remember my son is 28 now, and I remember watching one with him at one point, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like, okay, how come I hadn't seen any of this in all those years? But it is interesting that once you kind of do switch on knowing what to look for, it pops up everywhere. I mean, I am so shocked it's in our commercials, in our movies, in our TV, television programs. I mean, it's just like everywhere.
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, if you've got the eye for it, I do think there is sometimes, where some people, I think sometimes people see things that aren't there. But I do totally agree with you by and large. And it depends on the movie maker. Some of these guys are more adroit with this material and more astute with it than others. I mean, Lucas, who did the Star Wars movies, has said ad nauseum in interviews that he was influenced by Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell is a famous, if that name's not familiar to the listeners, and it may not be, he is a real famous American mythologist and symbolist who wrote a book. He wrote several books, but the one he's most known for was called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And in this book, he talks about the hero's journey this solar tail. I mean, and he breaks down different components of it. And Lucas, Lucas has said, this influenced me. And if you know these components, you will see them in the Star Wars movies. You will see other, mythological, icons turning up in the Star Wars movies. Not only 4, 5, and 6, but in 1, 2, and 3 as well. With Phantom Menace, clones. And the other one, the Revenge of the Sith movie, and Spielberg's another one, and Zemeckis is another one. Stanley Kubrick. I mean, The Shining has all kind of weird stuff going on in it. When you look at The Shining, and you look at some of Kubrick's work with, where you have, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was the Arthur C. Clarke book. Where Kubrick turns that into the apotheosis of mankind, where mankind achieves godlike status. Then you have The Shining, where Kubrick goes the complete opposite, where you have mankind descending into madness and savagery. And you will see a lot of, within The Shining, a lot of astrological solar symbolisms. In this case, it's a case of basically what you would call anti-gnosis or, anti-apotheosis, where the Jack Torrance character becomes this sort of false messiah, this maddening figure who presides over the Overlook Hotel, forever, basically, becoming demon-possessed in winter when the sun is at death, when enlightenment is at death. But that's when he's exalted in the winter months. It's a lot going on there with Gnostic dualism. And yeah, you're right. You'll see this. These guys are familiar with it. Like I get into in the book. I mean, I totally agree with you. I think the material is there 100% intentional. You can look at it another way, though, where, perhaps the director of the movie wasn't as adroit or as an astute, that's a better word, with the material. Again, you'd have, if it appears in a movie and the guy doesn't know of the material, you could definitely get into concepts of Jungian collective unconscious, where he was putting it in there irregardless of his intention because it's so ingrained. I could think of a couple movies where I know the director wasn't familiar with this material, and I know that for a fact, but you'll see it in his movies. You'll see Gnostic themes in his movies, but, and again, this would tie into what Carl Gustav Jung talked about, was basically it comes in whether we want it to or not, and the person's conscious mind, whether the conscious mind is unaware of it, the unconscious mind is, so therefore it's placed in the movie. So you can get into concepts of that as well. But no, I agree with you. I mean, I think this stuff is intentionally placed there by and large. And, you'll see it, and you're right. If you know what to look for, and, some of it is really, hidden so well, and right. You know what to look for, you'll start seeing it. I mean, I agree with you.
It does make it kind of hard sometimes. Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, I was saying there are times you even find it in our music and our music videos, so forth, and album covers and so forth too, and so you see a lot of symbolism in a lot of these formats. And in recent years, people will see a lot of symbolism in the halftime through the Super Bowl. There's a lot of symbolism that's going on in there, so it's just like it's everywhere. I mean, it's and people are starting to notice. Hey, they're starting to notice these symbols, and it gets talked about all over Facebook and all the other social media that people are noticing the symbolism that's being shown now.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. I think sometimes, though, I think with some of the stuff, like with halftime shows, I think it's more placed there as more of a provocative entertainment value thing than it is as trying to convey, some sort of hidden message. I did a podcast 2 weeks ago, and someone, I can't remember, I think someone asked me about like some Katy Perry video or Jay-Z or something. I mean, they use it, but I just think it's more, I think it's, for someone like that, I think it's more of a, agent provocateur sort of thing than it is trying to convey a secret message. I mean, I think they're aware of it too, but I think, for someone like that, I think it's more of a provocative sort of stir the storm sort of thing, than it is part of some sort of hidden agenda. But I will say, like you were right with album covers, definitely. I mean, the Led Zeppelin has material on it. I mean, the one that, of course, screams off the page is the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's, which has Aleister Crowley on it. He's in the upper left. Yeah, he's in the upper left-hand corner. And of course, with the Beatles, you get into there. I talk a little bit about it in the cinema book, in the cinema symbolism book. In the illustrations, I have two Beatle album covers in the book. The Sgt. Pepper with Crowley on it. Crowley is influential all over the place in the music industry. Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page owned his house, for God's sakes. And Crowley turns up in some of their lyrics. With the Beatles, with Sgt. Pepper, what was it? Paul wanted the entertainers on the cover. John wanted the philosophers and politicians. George wanted the mystics and occultists. And Ringo didn't care. And you'll definitely see Crowley. You'll definitely see Crowley on the cover there. And of course, you get into symbolism. And this is somewhat well known. And the Beatles were doing this. I mean, whether there is truth to this. I mean, I know you guys will know what I'm talking about. Where you get into the whole Paul McCartney is dead thing. With the Abbey Road cover. I mean, that right there, is one of the greatest, symbolic album covers, where you have the funeral procession, where, what is it? I'm just trying to visualize. I do it in the book. I talk about it in the movie book, for God's sakes, where John is God in white leading the procession. Then you have Ringo as the mourning sexton in black, who's the priest, and Paul is the corpse, who's closed eyes. He's walking out of step with the others. And Paul is left-handed, but he's holding his cigarette in the in his wrong hand. And then George in denim is the gravedigger. And then the license plate on the car was 28 if, meaning that's how old Paul McCartney was at the time, meaning if he's still alive. So I mean that's obviously intentional. I mean then and the Beatle album covers, they all have this. I mean they were definitely perpetrating this, intentionally. I mean, on Sgt. Pepper. I mean, I'm just trying to now, scan my mind for all the Beatle covers. What is it you have on we just did the Abbey Road on Sgt. Pepper. The guy Paul's on the front with the guy with the hand over his head, which is a symbol of death. I forget where. And Paul, I want to say, it's a lot of odd man out sort of things, where Paul is holding a clarinet on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's, which is the only instrument not found in a marching band, I want to say. And then on the back of the cover, he's the only one not facing forwards. He's backwards. And then if you open up the cover, he's seated in a posture that's a burial style in like India or something. And then I know on the one cover, he's in the trunk. What is it? It was not Beatles for Sale. Or maybe Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. I think it was, where he's in the trunk, meaning a coffin. And then on Magical Mystery Tour, if you fold open that cover, I think there's a picture of them playing, and he's got his shoes off with his eyes closed again, meaning he's corpse-like. And then on Ringo's, what is it? On Ringo's, the Beatles stuff is great. I could write a book on this myself. The drum cover for Ringo, it says the Beatles 3 instead of 4, meaning there's only 3 members. And then on the cover, you have them dressed up as the animals. And then in one of the songs, it says the walrus was Paul, and I think the walrus in Scandinavia or somewhere is a symbol of death also. So the whole Paul McCartney being dead thing, you got you're aware of it. You'll see that motif, on a lot of Beatle album covers and songs. And you're right, Crowley, he turns up on the the Sgt. Pepper cover. Led Zeppelin was heavily influenced by Crowley. Jimmy Page owned Crowley's home in Boleskine, which was where Crowley did these magical rites. That's in Loch Ness. And Page ultimately, I think in the early 90s, liquidated the property. He said the house was haunted by a severed head. And then with Zeppelin, you got all the backward masking things with Stairway to Heaven, with where it says one thing going one way and then it says something opposite going the other way. But that's interesting stuff. But the occult influence on Hollywood and the music making industry, definitely out there. And I agree, it's there, no doubt.
Yeah, and we didn't see it, so much. We did see it in in the rock genre and stuff, but it's starting to kind of get into many other ones, hip hop and all different ones. I do believe that for some it is just more for attention grabbing.
Right.
But then there's, others who will say it's not, with Lady Gaga and, different things. I mean, it really depends. But, again, when you see things over and over, it seems that the symbolism is seeping into, just about every type of media that we have. I mean, it's hitting all over.
I don't.
Very interesting.
No, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I mean, I think in some cases, I think like in some movies, I mean, it's definitely intentionally placed. I mean, I know it is.
Right.
I mean, I know this is not a coincidence. And like I said, if you were to see this once or twice, okay, maybe it's a coincidence. But when you see these guys using the same stuff over and over again, I mean, a lot of, like I said, a lot of them come out and admit it. But like with some of the stuff with like Katy Perry and stuff like that, I mean, I know what you're saying. I think it's definitely provocative. I mean, I think they're using it intentionally. I just wouldn't ascribe necessarily a sinister motive behind it. I mean, it's like one of the best examples I can draw from this. If you get into the entertainment industry, is Mozart's Magic Flute Opera. Which has lots of Illuminati, Masonic, occult Egyptian themes in it. I mean, the set design is very Egyptian, but I mean, he was being more fantastic and fantastic about it, and as using it as more of grabbing, shocking material than it was part of. This is an Illuminati opera trying to say we're taking over the world, And I mean, they're using it. All I'm saying is, I guess the point I'm trying to make is I just don't all the time ascribe a sinister motive behind it. There can be a sinister motive behind it. I'm not ruling that out either. I'm just saying in some cases I don't see, that there's this evil demonic force behind some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, again, I think that in the music industry as it's going in, I think that, it is more for like the whole shock value, not because, again, like you said, Jay-Z, we'll say Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, all these people, like they'll, do the symbols of, the one eye or things like that. But again, and then there'll be the rumors that, they, got their fame and fortune because they joined the Illuminati and this is necessary to be put in. But again, a lot of times I don't see a lot of it, continuing. So I really think that it's just another way to grab some more people out of shock value,
the shock and awe kind of thing.
That's the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think a lot of times, there's a lot of suspicion is raised because there's the hand that seems to be played is it's this ignorance hand is we don't know about that. I mean, and that's not the case. I mean, I agree with you. I think the material's there, but I think in some cases it's for a provocative, like you said, with Katy Perry and the Jay-Z's. I think it's more. I mean, I would find it hard to believe that Katy Perry is a part of some sort of Illuminati witchcraft cult. Although in 2014, I have to be honest with you, that would not exactly floor me if that was the case anymore. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't. But I like with the movies, going just back to the movies, I think the material's there, and I know it's there. I just don't see necessarily a sinister hand behind it. I think it's more of a mysterious hand behind it, and I think the filmmakers are definitely toying with the, I think it's almost like a challenge, almost, that the filmmakers are trying to put this stuff in to convey a story that they're telling beneath the story, and they're kind of challenging you to try to figure it out. And they're not going to talk about it. I mean, they're not going to talk about it when they go on with Barbara Walters or on, on Good Morning America or something. It's left out there, and they want people talking about this. They want people to try and figure it out. I mean, it's the old line, there's no such thing as bad press. So, you can, and it's the same thing with P.P.R.S. So you go out there and you flash the all-seeing eye, or you dress up like the go-to-Mendy's like Madonna during a halftime show. Hey, the conspiracy world gets buzzing. Hey, that's more talk. Hey, there's no such thing as bad press. You go right ahead with it. Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody in chat was just saying that, just like at the Super Bowl, that when Beyonce was performing, that she threw up, a triangle sign, and since she is Jay-Z's, wife, it's kind of, people were saying, no, we don't know if, she would be part of, all of this. And then she goes out and she throws up, these symbols and signs and stuff, and people are like, oh, my gosh, she must be. But I'm kind of with you on this, because I really think that it's more that, they just kind of want that shock value, and then more fans come to watch them, whether they like them or not, just to kind of see what it's really about. Because, boy, all they have to do is do a video or do an appearance or something like that, and either based on the graphics behind them when they're singing or performing, or their own gestures themselves, you'll catch, they'll snap a picture and, a still of it, and then they'll plaster it all over social media saying, okay, here's another sign that they're in the Illuminati, or they're, doing all this stuff. And I think a lot of it is just for press and to get more shock value and more people to them.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Kind of thing too.
Go ahead.
Too. Madonna in the past, when she was on that movie, Who's That Girl, and a lot of people were questioning about the jacket she wore that had the triangle thing, and of course, how her life went through, and kind of did the shock and awe thing. So, but it's definitely their provocative thing that what they're doing.
Yeah, the Madonna. I actually have a picture of Madonna wearing the jacket in the movie book, because that symbol is very mystical, and it does turn up in a lot of movies. It's in the Back to the Future movies, in a very unsuspecting place of all things. It's a twist. They reverse it. It has dual meaning in the Back to the Future movie, but in a lot of times, I think, when you get into Katy Perry and Jay-Z and Beyonce, I don't know if they're necessarily. I think they're probably more. I don't know if they're familiar with the material. I think they may be to an extent, but I think that's more coming from like a production manager or a designer or their manager who has a book on the tarot cards or a grimoire or something, saying, "Hey, look at this. This conspiracy world loves this stuff. You go out there. This is going to talk of the. You go make this triangle over your eye. Everyone's going to say Illuminati, and the social media conspiracy world will light up with this." So Beyonce's like, "Oh, okay, why not? Let me go do it." There it is, basically.
Yeah, for a publicist, they put out these little things, and hey, this will get you more attention, and they do it, and their hits, go through the roof. Why wouldn't they? Again, attention is attention, whether it's good publicity or bad publicity, and right now, especially with how hot in heavy everything is in the conspiracy world, with everything coming to the forefront and finding out that so many things that we've been told are not true, I think that it's definitely kind of out of control. So a lot of people are kind of jumping on that bandwagon to give the illusion that they may somehow be affiliated with all of this, and that's how they got their stardom. But
no, that's definitely another way of looking at it, and I certainly don't disagree with that. And I do agree with you with one thing you just said, is this material right now is incredibly popular. I mean, there is no doubt about that. I mean, whether it's the Illuminati or Freemasonry or occult symbols, or just esoterica or mystery religions, this stuff is definitely going through a revival right now. It is very popular. I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, well, we see it, all the time, and everything now. I mean, and I do follow, conspiracy theories, because there are a lot of things out there that, we have been lied to about it, and that are cover-ups and things like that. But, it's to a point where everybody thinks everything that happens
Oh, yeah.
It has to be some big conspiracy, and it just really isn't sometimes.
No, I totally agree with that. No, I agree with you. I mean, and you know, when I was writing this book, when I was writing Cinema Symbolism and the Royal Arch, you know, I'm familiar with the conspiracy world. Believe me, I'm a Freemason. I've heard it. I mean, I've heard it all before. And you know, one of my motivations for writing the Royal Arch book and the cinema book was I wanted to kind of dispel fact from fiction. And one of the things with the Royal Arch book that I did, you know, and I caught a little flack from it, I mean, but not much, is, you know, I dispelled some conspiracy stuff, but I took on some other conspiracy stuff and took it on head on. And, I mean, I will, you know, be the first to tell you, you know, that, yeah, I mean, there is, you know, occult architecture in Washington, D.C. It is aligned to the stars in heaven. It is, you know, there is, you know, a lot of esoteric symbolism going on, you know, in the United States that most people may not be aware of. And, you know, it is there. I mean, and, you know, some of it, you know, is conspiracy fact. You know, I get into a lot of the Jesuit influence with Freemasonry. That scares some Freemasons to death. But, you know, I definitely, and it's the same thing with the movie book. You know, there is some of this stuff. I mean, my God, you know, I mean, I have seen some of this stuff just taken to so many ridiculous extremes where if you go back to, you know, I've seen this before. If you put this movie that came out in 1990, you know, you freeze frame the scene, you turn it upside down, you know, you stand on your head and look at the scene backwards through a mirror. It looks like two buildings on fire. Oh, that's prophesizing the Twin Towers. You know, and it's just like, no, it isn't. I mean, it's, you know, it's a coincidence. You know, you're seeing something that's not there. But again, you know, and it's a balancing act, Christina. You know,
yeah.
I've seen too much of this to know that, you know, this stuff is in some cases intentionally put there. A director can deny it all they want to. I know better. I've seen it too often. And you know, it's like you said, you become aware of it. You'll definitely start seeing it more and more. You know, in like you said, in television shows and movies, things like that. I mean, I agree, it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're at the top of the hour. We are going to take a quick break. Let our guests have a break, get something to drink. We also let all the listeners do the same. Hopefully my producers are listening, and we should be back in about 5 minutes. And on the second half of our hour, let's talk about, you know, again, some more of the Freemason stuff, your books for sure. But you know, you were saying that the Jesuit, you know, part really scares a lot of people in Freemasonry. So I'm interested to know why. So we'll talk about that as well. So we will be back in about 5 minutes. Everybody go ahead and get something to drink and enjoy, and we will be right back with aliens, UFOs, and beyond.
The Caring Coaching Center is a proud sponsor of DTM Wicked Radio Network. What would it mean to you to have better health, more energy, more vitality, and an all-around better life? At the Caring Coaching Center, our mission is to be your partner in helping you reach your health, fitness, and lifestyle goals. We do this through a dynamic 6-month program that helps our clients reach their goals and their full potential. And it all starts with a free, no-obligation, 50-minute health history consultation. Just visit us at the www.thecaringcoachingcenter.com to schedule your free consultation today. Or you can go to www.dtmwickedradio.com, click the sponsor page, scroll down to the Caring Coaching Center tab, click on the tab and open up to the website to start your free consultation today. It's all here on dtmwickedradio.com. The historical Fort William Henry Conference Center and Resort is a proud sponsor of DTM Wicked Radio. If you're looking for a relaxing getaway, the historical Fort William Henry Resort and Conference Center is your destination. Come enjoy the beautiful mountains, the gorgeous lake, and everything Lake George has to offer in upstate New York, right off the Adirondack Mountains. For reservations, you can go to www.fortwilliamhenry.com or call 1-800-234-0267. The Fort William Henry Resort and Conference Center is your destination for the perfect getaway.
Rolling Hills Asylum. Located in East Bethany, New York, just minutes between two major airports, Rolling Hills Asylum is a hotbed of paranormal activity. They have been featured on Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Challenge, as well as Sci-Fi Channel's Ghost Hunters. Rolling Hills Asylum has been named the #2 most haunted location in the United States by HauntedNorthAmerica.com. The property was established on January 1st, 1827, as the county poor farm. Throughout the years, it has operated as a poor farm, infirmary, orphanage, tuberculosis hospital, nursing home, and more. Past residents and inmates consist of widows, orphans, physically disabled, mentally unstable, murderers, and more. Over 1,700 bodies are buried in unmarked graves, and hundreds more deaths went undocumented. Rolling Hills Asylum is known for a plethora of phenomena, including disembodied voices, doors slamming, footsteps, sounds of furniture moving, full-body apparitions, shadow people, ghostly touches, and numerous Class A EVP. Rolling Hills Asylum proudly offers historical and flashlight tours, 4- and 8-hour public ghost hunts, 8- and 9-hour private ghost hunts, and more, by appointment or pre-booking only. For more information, please visit www.rollinghillsasylum.com. That's www.rollinghillsasylum.com. Or give them a call, 585-502-4066. That's 585-502-4066. Rolling Hills Asylum. What are you doing this weekend?
Hello? Hello? Who's that? Whoa! Water! There's a ghost on the stairs.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond with our host, myself, Christina George, and Renee Chavez, and we have our guest tonight, Robert Sullivan, and we are talking symbolism, Freemasonry, and if you've been listening, we've really talked a lot about, the different symbolism that's in the media. We've been talking about his books. There's so many different things, and I know that we do have a couple questions that were in chat that we hadn't got to, so if we can kind of maybe go to those, and then we'll move on from there. The first one was, what is the connection with Washington, D.C. and our government?
What is the connection?
With the Freemasons.
Okay. I was about to say, well, it's where our government is seated. What you have? Well, it's a long answer. I'll do my best to condense it.
Sure.
When you have where you're going back now is to the early days of this republic, and you have a clear Freemasonic influence, not only architecturally in the federal district, but just in the creation of the country itself. For example, with the United States Constitution, which is essentially what I call in the book a Masonic document, you have the triple division of government between an executive, a legislature, and a judiciary, or the judicial, the Supreme Court. This comes straight out of Blue Lodge Freemasonry, where you have a triple division of governance between a worshipful master and his two wardens, a junior and senior warden. The triple division of government in this country is based on Blue Lodge Freemasonry, the triple division of government in a Blue Lodge. The triple division, in turn, is based on, it's a solar allegory. It's the sun. It represents the three daily stages of the sun. The worshipful master sits in the east, representing the rising sun. The junior warden sits in the south, representing the sun at meridian, and the junior warden in the south. The senior warden sits in the west, representing the setting sun. So the triple division of government is the triple division of governance in a Blue Lodge, and it's solar allegory. And also in the United States Constitution, you have the separation of church and state, where you will not have a state-sanctioned religion. This also comes out of Freemasonry. This comes out of the constitutions of Freemasonry by a Presbyterian minister named James Anderson. In 1721, he publishes the Constitutions of the Freemasonry, and one of its early articles, I think it's Article 1, Section 2, or maybe Article 2, Section 1, I can't remember. You have in Blue Lodge Freemasonry the separation of religion, where basically Freemasonry will not adopt any specific religion. It will basically be deism, where you have to believe in a supreme being. However, your path to that supreme being is your own. Masonry will not decide that for you. And, of course, this turns up in the United States Constitution as the separation of church and state. So, right there you'll have a Masonic influence on the United States Constitution. With the architecture of the federal district, we won't have time to get into all of it, but it's generally Masonic in nature. It's solar in nature. You have, just right off the top of my head, and like I said, I could spend the rest of the program talking about this, so I'm just going to plow over this as fast as possible. But right off the bat, you have the Pythagorean right triangle embedded in the center of the federal district. This is also known as the 47th proposition of Euclid. This is formed, it's a Pythagorean right triangle. If you remember back in high school, this is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is formed by the White House with the Executive Mansion, which is a replication of a Masonic lodge or palace that used to be a Masonic lodge in Dublin, Ireland, known as Leinster Palace. This is formed by this. Then you have the one side going down to the Washington Monument, which is the Egyptian obelisk, which is a solar emblem. The obelisk is sacred to an Egyptian sun god known as Amun-Re or Ra, and also ties into another sun god named Osiris. Then you have the one side going up to the from the monument up to the United States Capitol building, and then of course the hypotenuse or C squared would be Pennsylvania Avenue. The one side would be A squared, the other side would be B squared, and the other side would be C squared. This would be Pennsylvania Avenue. The 47th proposition of Euclid, or the Pythagorean theorem, is a emblem worn by the Masonic worshipful master, and it denotes Masonic sovereignty and leadership. So you have this Masonic emblem embedded right in the center of the federal district. You also have, it's also a solar emblem. Within the mysteries and within Rosicrucianism, the one side represents Osiris, who is this dying and resurrected Egyptian sun god. On the other side represents his virgin wife consort named Isis, and the hypotenuse C squared, which is Pennsylvania Avenue, is Horus, their perfected sun child. So you have this Masonic solar emblem right then and there, and of course the hypotenuse is Pennsylvania Avenue, and this connects the two branches of our elected government, the White House, which houses the executive or the president, and the other end is the Capitol, which is the Senate and the House of Representatives. Pennsylvania Avenue is, of course, named after the state Pennsylvania, which is the Keystone State. This is a Royal Arch hidden logo or symbol. There's a reason why Pennsylvania is known as the Keystone. It ties into Royal Arch Freemasonry. Again, it's complex. We won't have time to get into it, but it is a Masonic emblem. It's a Masonic motto. Like I said, I could spend the next 40 minutes just going over this alone. But yeah, you'll have a lot of and you'll have a lot of astrological tie-in with the federal district. This comes out of the world of alchemy and of a character alchemy, but it ties into a character known as Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes Trismegistus is a Hellenistic god of Greco-Roman Egypt. He is a combination of three gods: the Egyptian Thoth, the Greek Hermes, who is the Roman Mercury, and he plays an important part in Royal Arch Freemasonry. It's a long story, but in a nutshell, he restores the seven liberal arts and sciences back to mankind in the underlying Masonic philosophy of the Royal Arch. And, of course, Hermes carries around this thing called the Emerald Tablet, and on this is the Hermetic maximum, as above, so below. In a nutshell, meaning that buildings of importance that are designed and architecturally structured to withstand the test of time should be aligned to their proper planets and constellations in the stars. You will see this in Washington, D.C., all over the place. One of the most obvious ones that I can think of, and I've talked about this before, but I'll mention it here again, is the United States Supreme Court building, the cornerstone to the United States Supreme Court building. The original Supreme Court, by the way, used to meet in the Capitol building. They got their own building in 1932, and the cornerstone was laid on October 13th. This is a clear aligning the building to the House of Libra. On October 13th, the sun would be in its strongest in the house, and of course Libra is the great scales of justice in the sky. So you're aligning the Supreme Court, which dispenses earthly justice, with the astral scales of justice. This is again the Hermetic maxim of as above, so below. You will see this. You will see this again repeatedly all over the place. It's a long story. It ties into a lot of Egyptian mythology with Osiris, Isis, and Horus. I go into it ad nauseum in the Royal Arch of Enoch book. But yeah, in a nutshell, there is a ton of Masonic, astral, occult, esoteric architecture in the federal district. And just to sum up, you will see that when you got the eye for it, you will see this in Baltimore, Maryland. You will see it in New York City. You will see it in the Statue of Liberty. You will see it with the Erie Canal. You will see it in St. Louis. You will see it in numerous other places and venues as well.
Right, and actually Mona in our chat is saying that the Masons supposedly left a stone out on purpose when they built the White House.
No.
On the History Channel, so
no, that stuff on the History Channel. You want to avoid that stuff like the Black Death. No, that is paint. Some of that stuff. That's what I call kiddie pool material there. No, I know exactly what he's talking about. That is god awful. You have it's a long story, but with the White House you have and the Washington Monument, you have a lot of constellation of Virgo symbology going on, and again this ties into the Egyptian dog star Sirius, the constellation Virgo. And this is controversial, but I don't care. I'll say it anyway. In Christianity, the constellation Virgo is the Virgin Mary. In the Egyptian religion, it's the Virgin Isis, which is the Egyptian dog star Sirius. And you will see a lot of the whole thing with the White House and the stone going missing. that's a fairy tale.
Okay. And at the beginning of our government, I mean, many people who were, in power at that time were Freemasons, correct? I mean, there was a lot of people. Yeah, so I mean, you would expect to see a lot of that back in that time and in our buildings because of the fact that, they were building these things.
Right. Well, what they're doing is, to make a long story short, and I say this point blank in the book. I mean, I can't remember the chapter number, but I have a chapter called The United States of Freemasonry, and I say that the United States is the world's first ever Masonic republic. And based on that, yeah, they're going to turn to the symbols, the lessons, and the occult underpinnings of Freemasonry, and they're using Freemasonry to craft this whole nation. I mean, from the get-go. I mean, you will see it everywhere. The Washington, D.C. we talked about, it's in Baltimore, Maryland. Well, the same guys who did a lot of the architecture in D.C. did the same stuff in Baltimore. Who's that? That's Benjamin Henry Latrobe, Robert Mills. Latrobe did the Capitol, the domed Capitol on Capitol Hill. Robert Mills was his protege. He did the obelisk, which is the Washington Monument. Well, this is completely 100% duplicated in Baltimore, Maryland, where you have the domed Baltimore Basilica. Oh, who did that? Well, Benjamin Latrobe on the hill overlooking the monument to George Washington. Who did the Baltimore Washington Monument? Robert Mills. It's the same guy. Again, same thing with... you get into the state of New York being the Masonic Empire state. The Statue of Liberty is a temple to the number 7. This ties into the York Rite of Freemasonry, which DeWitt Clinton was basically head of when he took over the Knights Templar Commandery and encampments. And in the York Rite, the Royal Arch of Enoch, it's known as the Royal Arch of Zorobabel, is the 7th degree. So you have this number 7 reference. The Erie Canal is a Masonic logo or emblem that was blessed in a Royal Arch Masonic ritual that opened it up. Union College is Schenectady, New York, the first college established after the Revolution to offer high degrees in civil engineering or Freemasonry, is a Masonic template. It's the sun coming out of the vault of Enoch. My book's the first one to talk about that. So yeah, I mean, again, when you got the symbolic eye, you'll see this stuff everywhere. I mean, and basically, I guess the point I'm trying to make is they're using Freemasonry as tools of nation building. So yeah, I mean, you're going to see it, at every turn, basically.
Right. Now, we have another question out of chat again from Robin, and she wants to know, has there been, hold on, I got to get back up there. Has anyone made connections between the Masons and extraterrestrials?
Yes. And it turns up one place and one place only that I am aware of. And it comes from the work. You got to go back in time a little bit for this.
Okay.
But let me just explain by and large. Within Freemasonry, within Masonic ritual, within Masonic philosophy, there is by and large no reference to extraterrestrial life. Let me just say that for starters. You have Nicholas Copernicus coming along in the Renaissance, basically, who says the sun is the center of our galaxy and the planets revolve around that. And, of course, this, Galileo confirms, and this gets Galileo into trouble. Well, you fast forward to the late 1500s, there is a Dominican friar who was very interested in the Hermetic tradition, very interested in the occult. His name's Giordano Bruno. He's been left off the history pages, which is unfortunate. He begins investigating Christianity's religion, origins. He says, he's a Dominican. I mean, he's very well read. He's very well educated. Right. He says basically Christianity is a retelling of the Egyptian mythology. It's Osiris, it's Horus, it's Isis. This is Joseph, Mary, Jesus. And what he does is he takes the Copernican theory to a dangerous level where he says, in a nutshell, and I'm paraphrasing here because of time, he says, if you look up in the starry night, he said, you'll see a plurality of worlds. And he said, these stars that you're looking at are suns. He said, in being suns, they probably have planets that revolve around them or orbit around them, and likely on these planets is life, is extraterrestrial life. Well, of course, I can't tell you back in the late 1500s the trouble this causes for the church. Doesn't go over well with it doesn't go over well with the Inquisition. And in 1600, Giordano Bruno is burned alive at the stake. This concept is carried forward in a Masonic monitor by a man named Thomas Smith Webb. Thomas Smith Webb is a very prominent American Freemason. He's not well known. He is basically the cultivator and originator of what is known as the York Rite of Freemasonry. And in Webb's monitor, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, he summarizes Bruno, and he says something to the effect of, and again, I'm paraphrasing, he says something to the effect of, there are numberless worlds out there. He said, and all these worlds, probably contain life and are under the protection of the great architect of the universe. And of course, in Masonry, that's the title given to the supreme being or God. And he says, that this life is, under, the protection of the great architect of the universe, or the grand geometrician. So yeah, in this monitor, you will definitely find a reference to extraterrestrial life, or, this concept of limitless worlds or a plurality of worlds that contain life. And this should come as no surprise. A lot of the founding fathers did believe in extraterrestrial life. They didn't believe we were the only inhabited planet in the galaxy or in the universe. And of course the universe is so expansive. I think at this point in time it would be very naive to suggest that we're the only life out there. I can't believe that for 1 minute. But yeah, I mean, it actually, extraterrestrial life does turn up in a Masonic monitor. It's Thomas, if you want to look into it further, it's Thomas Smith Webb's Illustrations of Freemasonry, or Mason's Monitor, and I want to say it's published in 1797 or 1798.
Wow, very interesting. Well, you look back at like the Egyptian, going all the way back there. You also saw a lot of references to UFOs, other beings, things that were half animal, half human, all different things. So, who knows? It's strange, though, or actually not strange, but it's kind of funny how with Christianity that, anything that kind of goes against it, we're quickly tried to, they would try to shut them down, kill them off, whatever it took to not get, to kind of calm and not get that information out.
Well, right. What they were doing was, what they were doing was, it's probably more insidious than that. And I don't want to cast too much disparity upon Christianity, but it's basically, Christianity is basically copying these mystery religions, and so the story doesn't get out. They're trying to disparage it or bury it, or sack the Alexandria Library, or destroy the Temple of Lucius, or the whole story about the St. Patrick driving the serpents out of Ireland. That's an allegory. The serpents are the Druids, and it's Christianity driving the Druids out of Ireland. It's an allegory there. But yeah, I mean the whole problem with Christianity is the whole story, of the resurrected Son Man. The story of Jesus predates him. I mean, it's the resurrected Son Man. The 12 apostles, or the 12 houses of the Zodiac. The concept of a virgin birth predates Christianity. The concept of a solar Messiah predates Christianity. The birthday. I mean, this isn't even denied. The Christian celebrations are just just the pagan celebrations, just renamed. I mean, they don't even deny this. I mean, Christmas, the December 25th Christmas celebration is the birthday of the sun, or the winter solstice, where on December 21st the sun is at its lowest demarcation in the northern hemisphere. The sun doesn't move. The word solstice means the sun stands still. On December 22nd, 23rd, 24th, the sun doesn't move off the horizon. Then on the 25th, it moves 1 degree north. That's why December 25th is the birthday of the new annual sun. This also ties into why the sun is dead for 3 days, only to be born again on the 25th. We celebrate the birthday of the sun on the 25th. We don't celebrate its resurrection until the vernal equinox, or spring, which is known as Easter, where the sun basically emerges from the vault of winter and is resurrected from the tomb of winter, and the days become longer and the night starts to become shorter. So it's just all, it's just all the old pagan festivals rebranded and renamed. And of course, the whole problem is with Christianity. And I have a whole section in the Royal Arch of Enoch book. It's just a comparative religion. I mean, you will find these Judeo-Christian motifs in things that predate it. And again, it ties into, you may say, well, why is he talking about this? Well, it ties into Masonry because, in a nutshell, and I'm just summarizing here very briefly, that the third-degree ritual is a retelling of the same thing. It's the dying and resurrected Sun Man. It's Gnosticism, where you're brought from darkness to light. And it's completely paralleled, in the Masonic ritual, where the Sun Man is dead. The King Solomon character sends the 12 fellowcraft looking for the lost Sun Man. Well, the 12 fellowcraft are, of course, the 12 houses of the zodiac, who are going looking for the lost sun ruler. In Christianity, this is the 12 apostles who helped the Sun, or the Sun Man, who is Jesus, on the annual journey. In Judaism, this is the 12 tribes of Israel. I mean, it's the same story over and over again. So again, and you will see the point I'm trying to make is you will see these solar Christian pagan, emblems duplicated both in Blue Lodge and high degree Freemasonry.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Renee, did you have any questions? I don't want to cut you out of this.
No, I was intrigued about that too, because the way Christians think, it's just kind of how much things they've adapted to, from various pagan beliefs, integrated. That's why we have Christmas and so forth, and other holidays like this, and Easter. It's just amazing where if people don't really look at the real history behind the various holidays, and it just kind of leaves me dumbfounded. People just kind of take it for granted. Okay, they celebrate Easter, and of course, you got the symbol of the Easter bunny and so forth, and things like that. So it's just
right. I mean, well, I got into this a little bit in the movie book. I got into this a little bit with the Easter allegory. Right. I mean, you get into Easter, the whole date of Easter, when everybody knows. I mean, I hope everybody knows Easter doesn't fall on the same day every year. It is delineated. I want to say it's the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. I mean, the date of Easter is astrologically set. It's the first full moon after the vernal equinox, I want to say, is when Easter is celebrated. And the vernal equinox full moon is known as the egg moon. And, of course, this is where you get the whole thing with the Easter egg hunts, coming in. And then you also have concepts of the hair, is sacred to the moon. You have the so-called shadow on the moon that casts the moon, and of course the moon associates with a lot of goddesses of witchcraft like Hecate, who have the rabbit's head. So you will definitely see the rabbit, lunar, solar, allegory. Tying in with this. I mean, if you want to see this in a movie, I'm going to tell you where it is, and you're not going to believe it when I tell you. But there it is, and I talked about this in the first hour, is in Royal Arch of Enoch, I talked about the Excalibur movie. This was a John Boorman. This is the Excalibur movie by John Boorman. It came out in the late 70s or early 80s. It's by far and away the best one if you want to see the astrological symbolism around King Arthur. I mean, it has everything you wanted, and I get into the whole thing in Royal Arch. But of course, it's another solar allegory where King Arthur is the sun. The 12, or whatever, the Knights of the Round Table. There's always 12 or 24 representing the 12 houses of the zodiac, or 24 representing the 12 houses of the zodiac, and they're either diurnal or nocturnal phases. If you want to see this played out in a comedy, okay, it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where you have the little rabbit confronting the sun, King Arthur, who is, of course, the son, Graham Chapman, who's King Arthur. You think I'm stretching this point. The next time you watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail, take a look at the tunic that King Arthur wears and his trusty servant Patsy, and they carry the little banner around. Okay, take a look at the emblem on that, and tell me what that symbol is, and that's what they symbolize. King Arthur is led to the little rabbit, the little lunar rabbit, Lepus the constellation, by Aries the ram, and this is when King Arthur in Monty Python comes out of the winter months. So who does he meet at the vernal equinox? Well, Tim the Enchanter, who wears the Aries the ram's horns and is obsessed with fire and explosions because Aries is the fire sign. And Chapman and what's his name? We're very familiar with this. The guy who did Brazil and 12 Monkeys, Gilliam, he very familiar with all this Gnosticism. Yeah, but I mean, the whole King Arthur Monty Python, the whole King Arthur legend is a solar allegory, and you will clearly see this turn up. You'll really see it in Excalibur, but it turns up in Holy Grail as well, and you'll get some other astrological motifs in that movie and some other esoteric symbolism in Holy Grail. Take a look at it. Read Cinema Symbolism, then go watch it. You'll see some strange things going on.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So,
now I'm going to start watching movies after this. Now, after we do this.
Again, it's very crazy because once you do start, recognizing this stuff, you see it more and more over and over.
I'll give you another. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you another great example of this with the weather. Yeah, I mean, the weather. Directors love to play around with weather, and the weather outside. Whenever evil or demonic forces show up, okay, it's never at the vernal equinox. That's when evil's defeated. If you think I'm stretching that point, take a look at the Third Omen movie where the Antichrist is killed off at the vernal equinox. The Third Omen movie came out on the vernal equinox of 1980. In the Exorcist movie, you'll see this again where the evil is becoming exalted at Halloween, and you know that because this is when the mother's walking through the streets of Georgetown and passes the trick-or-treaters running by. Okay, this ties into what you were talking about earlier, right? Is Halloween and Beltane, the reason they're celebrated where they are, Halloween is called the darker half. This comes out of Druidism, where the celebration of Halloween occurs when it does is because that is the halfway delineation mark between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. That the middle point is Halloween, which is when the darker half takes over. So this is when evil begins to become exalted, and you'll see that in The Exorcist. This is when the evil demon begins to invade Georgetown right at Halloween. This is also contrasted with Beltane or Walpurgisnacht. That is the delineation, that is the halfway point between the vernal equinox and the summer solstice. So that's why those celebrations fall when they will. But yeah, pay attention to the weather going on outside. Demonic forces take over the Overlook Hotel during the blizzard, during the winter months. The Michael Myers character stalks on Halloween night, when evil is exalted. Evil is defeated in the vernal equinox in the Third Omen movie. There are other examples of this. They're escaping me at this time. But yeah, when demonic evil turns up, see what time pay attention to the weather outside. Oh, another one on this is another good one on this is the Second Omen movie. This is when the Antichrist character Damien Thorne is coming into adulthood and is becoming more powerful. Pay attention to the weather in the Second Omen movie. It is either fall or winter. It is never spring or summer. That movie is constantly flashing between fall and winter, when the sun is weakest, when the sun is dying, when the sun, the light and life of the world, God's sun with a U, not an O, is at its weakest. It constantly flip-flops between winter and fall. It's never summer and spring until the Antichrist is defeated in Part 3 at the vernal equinox. Very, very, very adroit symbolism going on there.
Wow. That just blows my mind right there.
Yeah. So your new book that is about to come out, The Symbolism in Media, when is it going to be released? Because I know it's coming out really soon. I think when I put out the promos, I had it reversed. But
right, yeah, I saw. Yeah, you did have. That's okay though. The Royal Arch of Enoch book is actually out right now. And can I give my website out real quick?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And we're definitely, I'm going to put all of the links that you provided to me on our Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond page, so everybody can check it out, get a copy of it. They got it available on Kindle, great prices, so definitely check them out.
The Royal Arch of Enoch is out right now. That's in Kindle, Nook. That's on Amazon. If you want signed copies of the paperback, which is it's an oversigned paperback, that has to be bought through my publisher. Only the signed copies. And that's the Royal Arch of Enoch book that's out right now. You can buy that the second on ebook. It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle. If you want the paperback through Amazon, not signed, you can do that too. But if you want the signed copy, that's through my publisher. My website is www.robertwsullivan.iv, and that's the letters iv.com because my name's the fourth. www.robertwsullivan.iv.com. There are links to buy the book. There's links to all my social media, YouTube channel, Facebook like pages. Royal Arch of Enoch is out right now. Cinema Symbolism is coming out. You can pre-order signed copies right now. Again, this is done exclusively through my publisher. And again, the link's right on my website, www.robertwsullivan with 2 L's, iv.com. And again, my website is very interactive. There's a YouTube channel for more videos, podcasts I've done, Facebook like pages. I have a Twitter account. You can follow me there. And this material is all updated, very frequently. It doesn't go dormant. I have Facebook like pages. And Cinema Symbolism, I am anticipating the Kindle and the ebooks will be launched in the next 5 to 7 days. The paperback you can pre-order signed. They will be out. I will have copies of them in my hand to sign probably in about 10 days. And I want to say my publisher emailed me today. They ship out at around July 13th to the 15th, sometime in there, and that's when it'll be just out anywhere. It's probably around July 13th or so. And the ebooks will be launched most likely in the next 5 to 7 days, maybe up to 10 days. And the paperback, you can pre-order the signed paperback right now. And again, this is done exclusively through my publisher. And their website is rsplaunchpad.com. But again, if you just go to my site, robertwsullivan.iv.com, there's links there. You'll see buy Rob's books on the site. It's at my homepage. And again, there's links to all my social media there. And again, you can pre-order right now the cinema book. And that will be a signed copy if you buy it through my publisher. If you just want to wait for it to come out and just buy it off of Amazon, that's up to you. And the ebooks and the Kindle and the Nooks, they should be out in about 5, 7, no later than 10 days. I'm anticipating about a week from now that they should be launched.
Perfect. Yeah, and I encourage everybody to go out and check out both books. We just barely scratched the surface of all the information that is in this, in both of these books. And, obviously, based on our numbers, people are loving this topic. So, these are definitely 2 books that I would definitely say you should check out. Again, I will be posting all of the links where you can get all of these books and on our Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond Facebook page. So make sure to check it out there and check out the books. So, do you see? Yeah, absolutely. Do you see another book in the future, Robert?
Oh yes. Yes, I am. The one is out. The one's coming out. I am currently writing 2 books at once right now, and I have started outlining a third. I am actually writing right now Cinema Symbolism 2. That is called More Esoteric Imagery in Popular Movies. This is a sequel to Cinema Symbolism. As I was writing Cinema Symbolism, there was more there was more movies I wanted to talk about. I know, for example, I did in Cinema Symbolism, I did the 6 Star Wars movies, then I did the Matrix movies, then I did the Lord of the Rings movies, and I wanted to do the Harry Potter movies, and I thought, well, wait a minute, this is 7, 8 movies here. I just thought there's no way. There's no way I can do this. And I also wanted to do the Narnia stuff with C.S. Lewis. So what I did instead was I pulled out the Harry Potter stuff. I left some of the Harry Potter stuff for a teaser. If you like Harry Potter, you won't be disappointed. But I'm doing really the whole, whatever it is, 7 or 8 of the Harry Potter. I'm doing that in Cinema Symbolism too. Some of the other stuff in Cinema Symbolism too. Again, this is stuff that I just wanted to talk about, but obviously the book couldn't go on forever. I'm doing the Alan Moore material in Cinema Symbolism too. I'm doing V for Vendetta, From Hell, The Watchmen. Lots going on in those movies. I'm doing some stuff with the Western movies, Good, the Bad, the Ugly, which deals with Zodiac and archetypes. I'm revisiting the movie Black Swan in Cinema Symbolism 2. In Cinema Symbolism, I do a whole tarot card Jungian interpretation of Black Swan, but there is also an alchemical interpretation of Black Swan, but it didn't fit. It didn't fit in this one. I basically would have had to go back and tell the whole story twice. So I pulled the alchemical interpretation of Black Swan, and I'm doing that in Cinema Symbolism 2. I'm doing some of the astrotheological religious movies, an astrotheological bent on things like Passion of the Christ, Ten Commandments. I'm covering that in Cinema Symbolism. So yeah, so Cinema Symbolism 2, excuse me. So that I'm writing right now. I have also started working on my first work of fiction. Interestingly, and this is something you'll be interested in, I had no real plans of writing a work of fiction. I dreamt this entire story about a year and a half ago, or not that long ago. I was sound asleep, and I dreamt this story. I woke up at around 6:30 in the morning, and I wrote out about 5-6 pages of notes. And I kind of liked what I was reading, and I decided I'm going to turn it into a novel. So I'm writing my first work of fiction. I don't want to give too much away, although it involves demonism, witchcraft, dark arts, Masonic conspiracies, the occult, all that good stuff. You're into that material, you're going to love this. And I have just begun recently, in the last couple of days, outlining another book on Freemasonry. I have a couple working titles. I have a working title for it, which is probably going to be the final title of it. It's called Freemasonry and the Path to Babylon. I am working on that right now, but that book is, to be truthful, probably 2 years away. Right now I am really putting my Cinema Symbolism 2 and my first work of fiction are taking priority right now. And I'm real excited about both of them. I'm real excited about all three of them, to tell you the truth.
Wow. So, so it just sounds like there's so many movies out there that you could probably keep writing for a very, very long time, right?
Yeah, well, I wanted to cover movies where I knew it was there, and I kind of wanted to stay away from Eyes in the Triangle in the background and stuff like that. I know, like for example, in Cinema Symbolism, the one that's coming out in a couple weeks, I did the back. I've gone over some of that with you: the Lord of the Rings, the Star Wars, Back to the Future, Blade Runner. But I couldn't talk about everything. So in Cinema Symbolism 2, I'm doing From Hell. That's got a lot of Masonic, alchemical themes in it. I'm doing the astrotheological bent on the religious movies, on Passion of the Christ and the Ten Commandments. With the whole Pisces the fish, sun worship, and then Aries the ram, which is Judaism. I'm going into that. The Alan Moore stuff is great. From Hell is very alchemical. I'm going into some of the Illuminati ideas. I have a chapter in Cinema Symbolism 2 called The Illuminati in Film, where I'm going to be talking about things like Tomb Raider. I'm doing Freemasonry and popular culture. I'm doing some of the Masonic themes in movies such as like The Man Who Would Be King with Sean Connery and Michael Caine. That's based on a novella written by a Freemason named Rudyard Kipling, who did The Jungle Book. There's a TV show out right now. They just renewed it for season 2, which is called Sleepy Hollow, which has a lot of, it doesn't have, it is basically a Masonic story dealing with the end times, but there's some esoteric stuff going on in that people may not be aware of that I'm talking about in Cinema Symbolism 2. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly with Clint Eastwood. That is, some Western movies are deal with what are called the archetypes. These are characters coming out of the zodiac. You'll see this in The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. The good, the Clint Eastwood character is the sun, is the good guy. This is the sun. This is the Leo. This is the Leo archetype. This is the House of Leo. Of course, the ugly, which is the ugly reflection of the sun, is his opposite house, Aquarius. This is the Eli Wallach character. And then, of course, the bad is, of course, Scorpio, who is always the villain. This is Typhon in the Egyptian mysteries. In Christianity, Scorpio is Judas Iscariot. And this is the Lee Van Cleef character in The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. You'll see this play out. Where Aquarius is looking for the water, for the sun in the desert. It's Aquarius who has to go find the water, and this is, of course, he's looking for his water pitcher. At the end of the movie, they stand perfectly aligned on the zodiac wheel when they have their gunfight, where you have Leo and Aquarius standing across from each other, but off to the side of Leo is Scorpio, exactly where he would stand on the zodiac side wheel. So you'll find a lot of zodiac archetypes in Western movies. This is cinema symbolism too. This is what I'm working on right now. Yeah, and I'm doing all the Harry Potter movies. Good God, where do you want to start with them? You got you got your little dying and resurrected Sun Man again, doing battle with the evil Dark Lord. Boy, where have I seen this before? This sound like Luke Skywalker battling Darth Vader, Neo battling, the Architect and the Archons in the Matrix. And then you've got the astrological symbolisms going on in Harry Potter, where the one little villain guy, the kid Draco Malfoy, is named after the constellation Draco, which is the serpent, and he goes into the serpent house or Slytherin house. Yeah, I mean, come on, it goes on and on.
Right, absolutely. And, it's funny because you say, we're talking about like Star Wars, and those are a lot of movies that, geez, just about, I think everybody is probably seen those movies. I mean, they've been around for so long. There's been so many of them. I mean, Star Wars was a favorite, of so many people. And, even now, even when they do the remakes and, there's lines and lines out there. And, when I talk to people about that, because one of them that, I do know about, people are completely blinded. They're like, what are you talking about? I didn't see anything, in there. So it is interesting. If you know what you're looking for, to look for, you can see it, but it is pretty hidden.
Yeah, Lucas puts it in all the Star Wars movies. They all have it, but basically what Lucas is borrowing off of is Joseph Campbell's monomyth, which is the hero's tale, which is the hero's journey, and the hero is, of course, the solar allegory or the solar avatar. This in Star Wars in the first three is Luke Skywalker. Okay, I mean, the name Luke is a corruption of the word. It comes from the Latin lux, meaning light. What light skywalks? The sun. I mean, he's the sun, who has the lunar sister, Diana, or Princess Leia, who wears the white robes of the moon. In the Egyptian mysteries, the sun god, in Greco-Roman, this is Apollo, the sun. In the Egyptian mysteries, this is Horus, who does battle with Set, or the Seth Lord. This is in Star Wars, who is the Sith Lords, who are the agents of darkness. Same thing, same solar allegory, same lunar allegory. The hero always meets the Hermes Trismegistus character, the smart wizard. This guy is easy to spot. The Hermes Trismegistus character is old Graybeard, who knows everything that's going on, but will only dole the information out piecemeal. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, who knows who Luke's father is, who knows who his sister is, but won't say unless he has to. When Kenobi's killed, his mantle's taken up by Yoda, who knows the same information. In The Matrix, this is Morpheus, who knows all the information about the real world and the false world. In Lord of the Rings, this is Gandalf the Grey, who knows the real true meaning of Sauron and the Ring. In Harry Potter, this is Albus Dumbledore, who knows the truth about Harry Scar and the Dark Lord. And by the way, Albus Dumbledore's female equivalent happens to be the Maggie Smith character, Minerva McGonagall. And, of course, Minerva is the female goddess of wisdom to counteract his Hermes Trismegistus. Perfectly played there, by the way. Perfect, female to male allegory there. You have the wise male, of course, being balanced out by the wisdom goddess Minerva. Perfectly done there by Rowling. You'll see him. You'll see the Hermes guy character all over the place. The evil wizard turns up from time to time. This is the evil Hermes Trismegistus character. He's a little different than the positive. The Kenobi guy wants to help the hero out on his journey. Will provide like the supernatural aid or the lightsaber, or for Morpheus, will train Neo in the combat techniques, or with Dumbledore will train Harry with the wizardry. You will see occasionally the evil Hermes, the evil wizard character. He's always kind of fun in cinema, but the hero in those movies isn't on some sort of spiritual quest to save the world. He's usually out for revenge, money, or a woman. or a combination of all three. One of the best examples of this I can think of is Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is your dying and resurrected Sun Man who is crucified to the Tree of Woe, is dead and resurrected against the evil wizard who is Thulsa Doom or James Earl Jones. And how do we know he represents Hermes? His banner is the twined serpents, which is the caduceus of Hermes, with the rising sun, as the light bearer, as the keeper of the wisdom. And, what's the wisdom that Thulsa Doom keeps? It's the riddle of steel that Conan is constantly trying to go after but can never quite figure it out. So, yeah, you'll have the positive Hermes character in film. The evil Hermes character in film turns up. He's always kind of a fan favorite. I get into much more of that in cinema symbolism. It's really interesting, and you'll see a lot of Gnostic themes tied into this as well.
Wow, very interesting, very interesting. Oh, wow. We got about 5 minutes left, and so, Renee, do you have any questions I'm reading Robin's post and your post in the chat. Do you have any other questions for Robert?
Yeah. It's just, brought a lot of awareness on what's out there and how all the symbolism is in a lot of movies and television. One of the ones I thought of was even Battlestar Galactica, and it has a lot of symbolism in there as well. And it's just it really blows my mind. It's like I think after the show, I think I want to pull out some popcorn and watch some movies just to catch some of these things that we've talked about.
Yeah, and I think when you read cinema symbolism, you're going to go watch these movies again because you're going to. You're going to see like, oh my God, is that really in there? Is that really in there? And then you put it on. Oh my God, there it is. I mean, we don't have time right now because I know we're running out. One of the trilogies that is just overwrought with this stuff, and I mean, without question, it's probably my favorite chapter in the book because it has the most in it, and it's probably one of the movie trilogies that you would probably least expect to find it in. It's the Back to the Future films. I mean, they are just so overwrought with numerology and Kabbalah and Egyptian mysticism and hidden little clues and dualism. And we're, one of the keys to figuring out that whole movie is pay attention to the buildings of what buildings are what in 1985, in 2015, and in 1955 because they all tie into each other and they all change. And the building that is in 1985 will have something to do what it is in 2015, but it'll be different. It'll be like it's opposite. It'll be like it's been reversed. And you'll see that in the movies. You'll see that in the Back to the Future. I mean, the one that's real clever. It's not really like a hidden symbol or anything. It is sort of, but it's real fun and it's in there. Is when Marty meets. This isn't the first one, and I'll go over this as quickly as I can. When Marty meets Brown in the at the very beginning, when he's going to time travel back, and Brown does the little experiment with the dog, and Brown says to McFly, all this land was owned by old man Peabody, who had this goofy idea about breeding pine trees. Well, if you remember the name of the mall, it's the Twin Pines Mall. I mean, do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's the Twin Pines Mall where he meets him. He says, old man Peabody had this goofy idea about breeding pine trees. Well, Marty escapes the Libyan terrorists, goes back in time, and I'll make it quick. He finds old man Peabody, escapes his farm. He runs over one of the pine trees, kills it. When he goes back to 1985 at the end, the shopping mall is called the Lone Pines Mall, from where he killed the tree. So you will find all these little clues throughout the Back to the Future movies, when you're tipped off to it.
Awesome. Well, we want to make sure, everybody check out Robert Sullivan's books. Like I said, we'll put the links on the Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond website, as well as, make sure to check out these, all these different movies that we've talked about with you on here tonight. Check them out for yourself. See what we're talking about. But I want to thank you so much, Robert, for joining us on the show tonight. I'd love to have you back on. Maybe when your next book comes out, we'll, bring you back on and talk about this some more. There's just so much, obviously, to talk about. But we do appreciate you coming on tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I thought it was a great show, both of you, and I appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much. I'd love to come back on. That won't be a problem. And, maybe when Cinema Symbolism 2 is getting ready to come out, maybe we'll do another Cinema Symbolism episode. We'll figure something out. But, I'd love to come on.
Yeah, our chat room is saying absolutely. They'd love to hear it. So, all right, everybody, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We will be back again next week, and we've got some great shows coming up. So we will see you then. Make sure to check out our like our Facebook page, Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. Talk to you all next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Renee. Good night, Robert.
Good night. Hello?